Dear friends, near and far, after the beautiful video of the International Theosophical Center of Naarden that I invite you all to visit for an unforgettable experience, we continue the 145th International Convention with this session of questions and answers. And I'm very pleased to introduce you the panelists. Tranti Kim Dew and Janne Vuononvirta shared with us their thoughts at the symposium. They are now joined by Sabine van Oosta and Carlos Guerra. As there might be participants joining us only now, I will briefly introduce to you all of them. Tranti Kim Dew is member of the Theosophical Society in France since 1972. She is a postgraduate in pharmaceutical technology. She is the chairperson of the European Federation of Theosophical Societies and former president of the TS in France. She travels widely to encourage cooperation and promulgate the teachings, as well as to share experience in service of the Theosophical Society. Her main concern is to promote a new way of living where each human life can be guided by universal ethics and the mystic dimension of consciousness. Carlos Guerra has been a member of the Theosophical Society since 1973. He lives and works as secondary school teacher of arts in Évora, Portugal. Several times sojourned at the International Theosophical Center of Naarden, and he regularly visits ADIAR. He has participated in various theosophical events in Finland, France, Germany, Italy, Spain, Switzerland, and the Netherlands. He has been General Secretary of the Portuguese section from 2010 to 2016, and it is Vice President from 2016 to 2019. In April 2019, he was elected as General Secretary for the term 2019-2022. And now Sabine van Oosta. She is an active member of the TS since 2001 and is the current General Secretary of the Belgian section of the Theosophical Society. Last but not least, Janne Vuononvirta is the General Secretary of the Theosophical Society in Finland. He is also a psychiatrist and a psychotherapist. He is interested in bridging science and ageless wisdom and thus helping people to find inner balance. And now, friends, as I'm sure that everyone is impatient to hear your answers to different questions, let us now go directly to the subject. We have received questions for all panelists and some specifically addressed to two speakers. Let me start with the first question. That is, how important is theosophy in these troubled times? At the moment, there is a lot of fear and anxiety in the world due to the coronavirus pandemic. Can theosophy help us to decrease these somehow? Kim Dew, would you like to start, please?
The questioner is very right to ask this question to emphasize on the fact that we are living in a troubled time. In fact, This is just a kind of special emphasis because human lives are always in trouble. The only difference is that people are not aware of that. Now, due to circumstances, people are now obliged to see that it is a troubled time because the events hits their own life. We're in a troubled time because awareness is developing and people are now more aware about things. Just imagine 2000 years ago behind us. Certainly we don't know the details of daily life of people, but still they are troubled in some way. Wars were there, conflicts are there, and when we study history, we have the impression that the history of humanity is just the histories of wars. So now it is right to emphasize that we are in a troubled time because we have more awareness, and also the size of the trouble hits the totality of humanity and not certain region of the earth. This leads us to consider this problem of the coronavirus. Coronavirus shows us that now it is time to focus our life in vital, essential things instead of being dispersed in many things and be distracted in many ways. And if I would say, contrarily to the mainstream, which thinks that coronavirus is really a disaster, I said, yes, perhaps. But in every event, we can sort out the positive aspect. And the aspects which are negative, we all know about it. Death, suffering, attachment to the people we love, and they have to leave suddenly without being able to say farewell or goodbye to the family. This is a very big thing for a human life. But then, apart from those tremendously negative aspects, we can draw out positive aspects also. Humanity, for the first time of its history, is now called to be focused on essential things and not to be dispersed. And this is a very big opportunity to learn. I think that other panelists will be certainly happy to contribute, to say more about this.
Sabine, please join us.
Yes, that was very interesting, Kim Du. We have indeed now a huge invitation to learn. And then, of course, obviously, you would think, then what should we learn? And that answer can be given in an innumerable number of ways. In fact, each individual is called to reply to that question, what am I here to learn? Also, in these specific circumstances of hardship, people are confronted with all types of suffering in all number of ways. And then maybe one of the ways to formulate the primordial question in it all is just an example. It's not the only way to say it, of course, but one of the ways to ask oneself the question is there a way to remain centered in joy, with capital J, in all of these circumstances? And how could I do it? And one of the questions you could ask yourself. I am now in pure misery. I lost family members. But is there still somewhere in this situation, of course, evidently you would say somewhere in me, a source of joy? And how can I touch it? How can I reach it? That's the only thing I wanted to add, really.
Thank you, Sabine. Janne, would you like to join us on this, answering at this question?
Oh, just a few things to say. And the first thing is, what is the meaning of theosophy in our lives? Is it something that we just read and study, or is it something that we live? And if theosophy, if it's the wisdom of the heart for us, it can have a tremendous effect, because more than ever we need compassion, and we also need wisdom at this time, and we cannot directly we need to be smart how we act in this current state of the world. We cannot just, there's no book where we can read the answers, but we need to use our mind. But also the theosophical teachings are very important, because they help us to put everything to a bigger context. For example, when you read and study the human life, and you learn that you read about the death, and for example, theosophy teaches us that there's no need to be afraid of death. So there's many other things that can have a big value at this time.
Thank you, Janne. Carlos, would you add your reflections on this theme?
Indeed, these troubled times are times of great challenges. The question is also about the importance of theosophy in these troubled times. I think it may be important if we have the capacity to perceive and live its ethical and pragmatic dimension. Theosophical knowledge gains meaning when it goes beyond the intellect and gains a practical impact. The intellect understands theosophical teachings in a very, very fragmented way. If we are able, if we have the capacity to go beyond this fragmentation, we will understand the importance of awareness of the unity of life. The awareness of the unity of life allows us to be in solidarity. Solidarity is fundamental in these troubled lives. Indeed, it is fundamental. The spirit of solidarity, combined with the awareness of the unity of life, relieves, so to say, our living, our suffering, relieves our suffering, and helps us to alleviate the suffering of others. The spirit of solidarity reduces our self-centeredness and favors the compassionate spirit, as Jan said. Solidarity is, in a way, a manifestation of compassion. The ability to be compassionate takes away, so to say, ourself. In this way, theosophy helps us to integrate ourselves into the whole, to face fear and anxiety as collective facts. The awareness that fear and anxiety are collective facts is a vision of the unity of life. I would say that this awareness makes the love and the tranquility that the world needs now flourish in us.
Thank you, Carlos. We have already a lot to ponder on. Now, question number 2, that is, Why aren't we aware all the time? Why is it so easy to forget to be present in the now? And I will ask to Carlos if he would like to start.
This one is a difficult question, so to say. Theosophy helps us to understand impermanence as a fact in life. Life is really impermanent. Living with the awareness of impermanence helps us not to get attached to things, to people, to family, to our work, and so. It is evident that detachment is not an absence of affection, nor indifference, nor a lack of attention. Detachment is the adaptation of ourselves to the impermanence and the flow of life. In this way, pretending to be conscious always requires an effort that removes the naturality of the naturalness of our consciousness, of our conscience, and that prevents it from appearing in a spontaneous way, illuminating us and guiding us. We have not forgotten that we are in the now. I think it is not a matter of forgetfulness. Now is fleeting, like a river current. We say that we forget to be in the now because we want to fix the now in the time and in the space of our physical perception and our senses. The beauty of the now is related to the fact that it is not possible to fix it, to imprison it. So the fundamental question to ask ourselves is this one. Is it possible to dive into the now and flow with it, with the awareness of the flow is the flow of life itself as a whole? Theosophy is, in a way, the ocean of impermanence, in which the now and its flow are pure abstraction. Thank you.
That's a very good question, very interesting. Sabine, would you please add your reflections on these?
Well, yes. Carlos just mentioned the now, which is indeed a very important moment. I wanted to add to that, in the average life experience of an earthling, a human being now, and then of course, I am talking out of a Western perspective. I guess that there are tremendous encouragements, if I may say so, to get us out of the now, to chase us out of the now. There is a serious overflow of information. People get information and impulses from everywhere. And in fact, one of the first steps to undertake, if you want to find your way back to the now, is to first, even temporarily, cut off that gigantic inflow of information that is actually, if you look at it objectively, of no use whatsoever to find the now, even when they are talking about the now. So we should reflect on that. You need to cut off, you need to be selective on your intake of what we in theosophical terms would call mental and emotional food, so to say. Well, I wouldn't call it food, I would rather call it trash, but anyway, the word doesn't matter. I think that's the first step to trying to regain the now. And that is exactly one of the key elements that avoids us from really being aware all the time. And that is also one of the key elements that makes us forget about the now. Thank you.
Thank you, Sabine. So,
Yes.
Janne, would you like to add your comments?
Well, as Sabine said, the modern times are very hectic, and it's very difficult to remain focused. And this is the reason why different kind of mindfulness and meditation practices are becoming so trending. We need those practices more than ever. And also there is a question of practice. The more we practice being in the present moment, being aware, the better we become. It's pretty simple.
Thank you, Janne. Kim Dew,
Yes, you see,
please.
yes, I wish to add something very short. It is very striking to read, why aren't we aware all the time? And next is, why is it so easy to forget to be present in the now? Striking to read that, why aren't we aware all the time? I would say that out of my humble understanding, to be aware all the time to mean to be a Buddha, realized, awakened, because it is all the time, meaning that there is no lapsing in the stream of consciousness going on in this clarity in the mind and all other dimensions. So we are not Buddhas, we have the Buddhaity in the nature, meaning that we have the capacity to be the Buddha, to be aware all the time, but we can't for the time being. This is why we have to learn. This is it goes very, very consistently all together. Now the next question is, why is it so easy to forget to be present in the now? The person who asked this question certainly is aware of two things: the present and the now. And very, very often there are a mixture of confusion between the present and the now. This is quite different. The present is just a kind of component of the three things in the time: the past, the present, and the future. But the now, to say it in short, the now is the eternal. This is the instant eternity. And to be present, it is not to be in the now. You see, so it is not very easy to be in the now, because to be in the now means that we are all the time aware, so that we would not miss at any time this eternity of the now. So it is what I like to contribute to this question.
Thank you, Kim Dew. It is so comforting us. It is consoling us. How can I say? Because we are human beings and we are on the road. So we know where we are going, but the road is tricky, really, for everybody. Thank you so much. Well, now next question, the third, that is, when you notice that you are becoming more aware, you may become too proud and self-centered. For example, I started meditating, and after a while, I noticed that I am not such a jackass anymore as I used to be. Is it common? Can you elaborate on that? Sabine, would you start to develop this, please?
Yes. I would very much like to say something to that. It feels like in this question, there is a kind of a double effect to it. I start meditating. Isn't there a risk to get too proud? And on the other hand, I also see that I'm not such a jackass anymore. find it very nicely formulated, I must say. This is exactly the thing. The one is always there with the other. They always pop up in you while you practice and in your life's experience together. And that is exactly when we read, like At the Feet of the Master, where we are, the disciple is constantly warned against. It is possible, if you are really practicing in a serious way, that you start to observe a better ability to concentrate, a more refined, a more deepened awareness in life. And at that moment, when you see that, indeed, you need to refrain from the thought and the feeling that you know. You should even refrain from the feeling that it is going well and that you are doing well. And that actually is probably one of the reasons why, for instance, in certain mystic movements and with certain mystics, and you can easily read it in different sources, there is this constant accent, insistence upon the quality of humility. They should in fact guard you from this self-centeredness, from this proudness on, oh God, I did accomplish something here. I can concentrate for 2 minutes. Wow, good of me. Please don't do that, because from the moment even that thought starts, from the moment you start thinking you're already done with any progress that you have made. So yes, I see it is a balancing act, and probably it's a balancing act until the very culmination of human spiritual self-development. Thank you.
Thank you, Sabine. Maybe it can be referred to every part of our life, every situation in our life.
Definitely so, yeah.
Thank you very much. Carlos, would you please join us in developing this theme?
Yes, Patricia. Firstly, it seems that it is very important to ask ourselves if we are really more aware. If there is more awareness or less awareness. To say that we are more aware may reflect the desire to reach a certain level of consciousness, of awareness. Therefore, telling ourselves that we are more aware can be false and arrogant. The emergence of some pride and some self-centeredness are signs of this falsehood and arrogance. Secondly, if in meditation comes the idea that we are not as jackass as we used to be, this is still perhaps a manifestation that we are still jackass. Being aware means finding the humility that makes life easier and the relationship with others more attentive and more affectionate. But humility itself can be also false and arrogant. It is evident that we cannot live in a situation of permanent doubt, but observation of ourselves is essential. It is not accident, it is not hazard that one of Theosophy's greatest challenges is self-knowledge. Meditation can promote knowledge of oneself. without the concern of comparing what we were with what we are, without the objective of attaining, reaching this or that one level.
So we have two key words. Thank you, Carlos. Janne, would you please join us?
Thank you,
on
Patricia.
this? Please.
When you start meditating and notice that you are not a jackass anymore, it is an excellent thing, because it means that you are doing something right. And so it's the moment when other people can also see that you are not the same anymore, that you have changed for the better. You are a better person. And then the others start to think, how is this possible? How did this person change? And in this way, this is the best way to speak about theosophy, for example, to other people by example. But well, this is the first step, and usually when you notice that you are a better person, in the beginning of your practice, it's very humane to think that you are a better person, but better than the other people. And this is becoming proud. You are thinking, you are separating yourself from the others by thinking that you are better than the others. So the next step is to become aware of your ego and notice this moment. Because when we practice meditation, when we start to learn how we are conditioned, what are our karmic attributes, we in the beginning these karmic attributes they start to loosen up, but during time they will come back in a more refined form, and then we need more awareness to take the next step.
Thank you, Janne. And now I would like to ask to Kim Dew to share her thoughts with us on this important theme.
I have really the good feeling that the questioner of those two questions is really very, very sincere. And I appreciate. You see, when one starts to meditate, it is absolutely legitimate to have the feeling, the good feeling that we're going somewhere at a good, right destination. We don't know yet, but we have this feeling. It is because I suppose that when we start meditation with sincerity, there is a kind of guidance inside us, which I would venture to call intuition. This is the kind of teaching from inside, intuition, which says it is the good way you start and you continue. And of course, after some time, we feel good. And then the ego would recuperate and say, oh, I have so good meditation, but I never continue to be an idiot. And this is to be avoided. Of course, the joy is legitimate. The satisfaction to take a good turn in life is legitimate. But when we start to say, I am no longer an idiot, it is not a good turn. It is a kind of the ego now trying to take out the fruit of the whole spiritual being, which is the one who meditates. So then there's a kind of, and this also, we have to use the term awareness again, because observation in a very genuine and very honest way will tell us where it is true and where it is wrong. So then it is very, very common that we feel good that we start meditating. It is very common also that we start to say, oh, after meditation, I stopped to be an idiot. But then the second thought should be corrected. The first one can be kept. This is all I would like. And I would say I appreciate very much these two questions because it testifies for sincerity.
Thank you so much, Kim Gyu. Thank you. So observing as again as a key word for our work, for our inner work. Thank you. Now we have two questions directed to Janne. And we will start with the first. So it is, thank you for explaining in your lecture how important and essential the discernment of one's suffering is for us humans, in order to become balanced and fit for spiritual growth and to become aware. The question is, you mentioned the two arrows of suffering, the inevitable pain about life's events and one's personal reaction to these. But can you elaborate on the role of karma in this respect? Thank you, Janne.
Thank you, Patricia. Karma is actually a very complex thing. If we simplify things, we can think that the first arrow, the difficulties of life that happen to us, these are karmic events that we have built ourselves when we have done stupid things in this life or in previous ones. Also, as there is no such a thing as a personal karma, but we are all connected, and everything is, in the end, everything is collective. For example, we can ask why we are facing the corona pandemic. It's not our personal karma, but we are facing it because we belong to humanity, and this is the collective karma of the humanity. Also, and when we look at the second arrow, this is more how we relate to things that happen to us, how we think, how we feel, what kind of reactions activate in us. And this Buddha teaches about skandhas also. These are the karmic attributes or tendencies, how we feel, what kind of tendencies we have to think, to feel, and usually we are not very well aware of these. We are not very well aware of our conditioning, but during practice, we can become more aware of our skandhas, of our conditioning, and start changing this.
Thank you, Janne. But your lecture raised another question, and it is, in the paragraph of your talk named The Second Step, you considered that if you stop trying to put life into a fixed form, ... you connect with reality. But which kind of reality do you refer to here? The factual one or other?
This is a very good question, because what we don't notice is that our mind twists the reality that we are experiencing. We put our head to the brush, but we don't usually notice this. So our perception of the world is it's biased all the time. And what I mean here is that when we come in connection with the reality, it means that we let go of this biased views we have. Today I've been thinking about President Donald Trump, for example. he just lost the elections in the States, but he still believes that he won the election. So he is not in connection with the reality. He's denying the fact that Mr. Biden got more votes than he did. And here in Europe, we are laughing at him. We think he's a lunatic. We don't understand how he can act in this way. But what is good to note is we all have the same tendency. We all quite often fail to see reality as it is, and in some sense we are all crazy. Buddha taught that we are all crazy, and what we do when we practice meditation, we try to notice that we are crazy and let go of our craziness.
That's fine. Thank you, Janne. And well, now we are going to answer the fifth question. Well, there are two. Kim Du's lecture raised two questions that I will address to her now. This is the first, and it says, your talk shows a deep understanding of life. It is all about the act of recognizing love, all-encompassing love. The question is, what, according to you, are the most striking hindrances for us humans to become aware, and how to overcome these? And the second question is, how can we foster the process of flowing of the human mind towards higher dimensions? Can the increase of our degree of personal awareness foster the process for all sentient beings? Thank you for your answers.
Well, thank you, Patricia. I can perhaps use, meld the two questions together as you have answered the two together. But then what would be the biggest hindrance for us humans to become aware? Well, my answer is very short to this part. The greatest hindrance is negligence. Negligence meaning that we can see some things, but we don't want to see, and we cover it up. It is like Janne gave as an example for that, and we try to rewrite another story to fit our ego. So it is all this negligence and the making of another illusion over another, the biggest illusion. We try to fabric new illusions to that. So avoid negligence. Whether we see something, don't go ahead to justify or to make another story. Just remain with the fact. Meaning a kind of remain in the now. Mean that living with facts and not speculations. Now coming to the second part of the question, how can we foster the process of flowing the human mind towards higher dimensions? And can the increase of our degree of awareness foster the process for all sentient beings? Any of our effort would benefit the whole mankind. It is because we are one. So whatever we do good for us, we do for the whole humanity. And then, so it is obvious, it means that we are one. So whatever we do it, and to us and to the others, all sentient beings. Now, how can we foster the process of flowing of the human mind towards higher dimension? It is at the same time easy and difficult. Easy because we know all the process. The process is easy. But the realization of the process is not easy because of the struggling of matter against the spirit, meaning the ego always struggles to keep itself alive. So then to have the process to go onward, to go over all the difficulty of the material field, the human mind would have one discipline, always moving forward. Moving forward meaning don't keep things which appear like the most fit to us, and keep it going on. Keep the mind alert and go on and see, because the road is endless. To the point of view of where we are now, it is endless. It should have an end, but the end will be temporary because space is infinite. So our evolution also and growth is infinite. So then move on, move on. This is why I like this sutra, gate, 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 meaning go on, walk, go on, meaning that the whole process is the alertness and the energy of going on and not stay at the same situation. But then, of course, intelligent people will understand that it is not change just for change. There should be some reflection, discernment, and ending at somewhere, at some capacity of intuition. Then the whole process is to learn to get rid of negligence, to learn to be more attentive and be silent inside us so that the intuition could express itself at some moment in some way, so that we could also catch the message. Perhaps this is called the voice of the silence.
Thank you, Kim Dew, for sharing your views on this point. Well, friends, near and far, this session is over, but I wish to thank all the panelists for their uplifting reflections and inspiring comments. And now I say you goodbye. See you in the afternoon, and please take care. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Patricia.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Patricia.